Hey y'all, how's it going? It is time to discuss Westworld Season 4, Episode 6. And, I'm feeling in the middle about this episode. I'm just going to tell you right out the gate. It's funny, I wrote this was, what an episode. This was exciting. And now, like 24 hours later, I'm like, it wasn't the best episode. But I will say, it could have been worse. I think for the most part, I think the problem is the two main storylines for this episode I didn't too much care for. That Caleb storyline was pretty interesting. The whole stuff with C and Bernard to me has kind of been the least interesting plot line. I'm actually glad that I do enjoy Caleb this season. I think Aaron Paul has been doing a wonderful job with the acting, and we really saw that come out in this episode. But yeah, the whole C storyline is just kind of like, you know, there's better things, there's better characters, and so this kind of felt like theirs was a little bit of filler. So let me explain. So basically the whole plot line for C, Caleb's daughter, that's her name, right? To the point where I'm like, I really just don't care about his daughter, unfortunately. But the big thing there was she and Bernard had to go dig up Maeve and revive her, get her all processed up. And in the meantime, kind of dealing with the rest of her team coming back. And then Bernard telling her that there is, a traitor amongst you, and cue the Among Us song. But, so yeah, that was basically the whole of it. It really wasn't a lot to go on. It seems like they really found a way to stretch out this plot line for, the duration of a 15-minute episode, but somehow they made it work. So, okay, so they go get Maeve. Bernard reveals he does some exposition drops talking about how Delos used to collect data from hats. Is that brand new? I feel like I've never heard that before. They just came up with that. And then they later converted that into mirrors where they would collect data from the guests via mirrors. And then he collected some sort of chip with information on it from being in the mirror. I'm not actually sure what he was collecting from the mirror in the first place, so please let me know what that was all about to begin with, because otherwise I'm like, I just kind of missed what the point of that entire info dump was about. So then we have that, and then at some point Caleb's daughter finds out that Bernard and Stubbs are hosts. She ties them up, and then Bernard tells her, like I said, there's a traitor amongst them. And I thought that was going to be quite an interesting plot line, because he's like, I can see all these possibilities, but at one point your girlfriend is the traitor, at another point even Stubbs is the traitor. So I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of interesting, because pretty much everyone is a suspect. And wow, what's going to happen when you have to spend the whole episode trying to suss out who is all the Among Us trying to find out who is the traitor. I guess the downfall to that was like, she found out pretty quick. She talked to two people. She talked to, I believe it was Jay, who was the guy who was in the flashback at the beginning, and then it was her girlfriend. So already they set you up to believe, to kind of know that, hey, Jay is the traitor. And we found out that when they went back over into the city, he had a host copy of himself. The host replaced him, yada yada. So I thought like maybe that could have, trying to take longer to figure out who the suspect was, that could have maybe spiced things up a bit, but it didn't. So I'm gonna move on. At any rate, I'm like, okay, so what's next for her team? I don't know, not much has really changed, except for the fact that they're just gonna have to now use Maeve to go kick Hale's butt or something like that. So I thought that was kind of a weak storyline. It had its moments, but I was just kind of like, okay, let's get back to the Caleb stuff. So on to Caleb, who we go see was with Hale, and Hale is once again interrogating him, is on, well over 250, 60 something copies of this Caleb, just to try to get to the bottom of this. And I'm gonna tell y'all, the moment that I saw that this episode was named Fidelity, I was like, aha, just like the Fidelity test she was doing in episode 4, and she was trying to figure out, the whole moment when we found out that Caleb actually died in that incident 20 something years ago. And so I was like, I knew that wasn't a throwaway line. I knew that she was going to be hung up on the fact that he said something about why he was able to disobey her and why he had something that she didn't. And so as I kind of hypothesized last week, I was like, okay, so maybe that means she's really going to want to dig into him and, try to figure out, like, if he has something that she knows about, that could obviously kind of help her to solve her outlier and breacher problem. And it was kind of funny that she said you're the first outlier because you're the first person to be like, hey, no. Even though I think it is very reminiscent, right, of good old Mr. Delos back in, what was that, like season 1, right, where they were trying to figure out what would happen if you tried to prolong someone's life by turning them into a host, and it just didn't work out. And so as we see here, once again, even the host just kind of being able to be free, extend their mortality, that isn't working out as well. So, there's a natural order to this world, guys, and it cannot be disrupted, not even by host. And I guess I'm skipping the most important part here, which is the fact that Caleb kind of did reveal to Hale, he was like, I'm not infecting your host. I'm not the problem. What the problem is that no one wants to live in this world that you've created, right? He was like, they would basically rather die than have to live in this society that you constructed. They want their mortality, basically. So another huge L for Hale to take. And I'm glad I started watching the trailers for the next week's episode, because those are pretty insightful. And so I think she is going to go into panic mode, because as we hear in that kind of preview, she's like, okay, this is your last day here, people. This is your last day on Earth. Buckle up. And so it's kind of like the rapture, right? It's like the apocalypse. And I'm assuming all that pandemonium that you see, people are running around and looking frantic, it's kind of the host response to being like, wait, hold up, we don't want to die, or at least not like this, right? Like, I don't think any rational person would want to be like, hey, wait, what's going on here? And it's funny, right? Because we've been talking about this hypocrisy with Hale, and now she's really pushed the envelope here, because it looks like she's going to be making the executive decision for every host to upload them to the cloud, to whatever her version of the Sublime is. And you remember, if you recall in that other episode, we were talking about how she expressly did not want to upload or make the choice rather for her host to be transcended, to be sent into the cloud, to live out their consciousness without a body, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, if I made that decision for them, I would be too much like the humans. And so now, so at this point, yeah, she's really lost her way. She's really gone power hungry, and truth hurts. It's one of these things where, okay, she could have listened to what Caleb said at face value and said, maybe you're right. Maybe the society that I'm building is pretty morally wrong. It has been from the beginning, but maybe she would have realized that. But she didn't, right? It's one of those things where it's like, well, I'm right and you're wrong and you don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that decision for you. So now this is where things are getting interesting. And so it's got me wondering specifically now. I'm like Bernard, and I'm like, Doctor Stranging my way through all 14 million possibilities about how this can pan out towards the end. Because again, I'm thinking about season 5, because we're only on episode 6. We got 7 and we got 8 left over. So I'm trying to figure out what happens in this situation that will warrant us to have a season 5. So to me, I think that Hale is going to have to lose. Okay, hear me out. I don't think that there's a way for her to win, because if she wins, if she gets her wish, which basically already happened in this season, then to me, season 5 is basically going to be a rehash of season 4, where we need a team and we've got to put together the team to stop Hale. But it's kind of like, well, if everyone failed in season 4 with Christina and Teddy and Bernard and Maeve and Caleb's daughter, it's like, then what more hope do we have aside from our main cast of characters? So my prediction would be that our cast of characters do win against Hale some way, somehow, and then season 5 is going to be kind of this whole rebuilding of the Earth, rebuilding of society, and basically, how can we figure out, essentially it's going to be, how can humans and the host coexist together. I've been throwing around this idea for a little while now, and so that's where I see season 5 going. I could still see season 4 having some sort of twist, like something that I did see, just because even the twist about Caleb saying, you know, there's nothing special that I have compared to the other hosts or the other humans, it's just the fact that they just don't want to listen to you. They don't want to live in this world that you've created, kind of the way that he is doing. So all that said, yeah, I didn't talk about Caleb, the whole actual plot about Caleb though. I just completely skipped over that part. I actually did really like that part, having him kind of, like I said, in this live, die, repeat situation where, you know, he's seeing the clues, he's seeing the handprints, and then he's seeing, okay, I made it this far. Oh no, the last me made it that far. And then even going so far as to use a version of his dying self to jump from, you know, the crawl space and land onto the floor. That was something else. I do have to give them props for that. I really like that idea. You know, culminating all for him to, I was like, what are you gonna do? Because your body is gonna decompose, dude, or you know, you don't have long to live. And ended up sending a message to his daughter, which he didn't really receive completely. So at the end of the day, did it matter? Or will she actually get to hear the message in whole? Because I was kind of like, well, she heard like 5 seconds of it, guys. You know, I don't think she didn't really have a reaction to it either. So I'm hoping that I don't know, there will be some sort of emotional reunion between those two, because I just need something to work with his daughter's character. It's not giving me much here. But hey, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, keep it succinct. It's still kind of late for me, so I'm like, I think that I've gotten all my thoughts out. Like, it was a good amount of stuff happened, but not a ton compared to some of the other episodes, which is fine. But yeah, I think the only other thing I was gonna mention was we still don't have this concrete answer to me as to why Christina and Teddy are thrown into the loop. Sure, Christina being, you know, kind of not the architect, but the storyteller for Hale's world, but to me it just seems like if you were to say she brought them back just because, I'm like, no, that just doesn't fly with me. So I'm hoping that gets addressed before it turns into what I would consider a plot hole, unless it could be, you know, explained some other way, but that's really been kind of bothering me. Otherwise, guys, leave me a comment letting me know what you thought about this episode, where you think it's heading as we get into the finale. And just want to say a quick thank you for everyone who subscribed to me. Help me get to 200 subscribers. Wow, what a dream. I'll do some sort of special really soon. I don't know what, but it's just really been a ball getting to chat with everybody here about Westworld. I would have never expected this to be one of my best performing series, so I love where this is going, and I hate to think about it ending, but otherwise, like this if you liked it, subscribe for more Westworld. We'll be back next week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.